Well, we're live for the second time. Welcome back, Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. My name is Garrett Burrows, one half of the Draft Busters. Right side of your screen is Chickster, aka Alex Chick. We got off to a rough start. We were live for about 7 seconds, and then all hell broke loose. How are we doing?
You can do a lot in 7 seconds, though. You know what I mean? So it's okay.
I could do stuff like 3 times in 7 seconds.
That's
So.
what I'm saying. I'm with you on that. So we're good.
Coming off of the heels of the 2025 NFL Combine, we are going to be taking a look at the rankings going forward. Alex and I kind of thought it'd be best because quarterbacks, running backs, pretty set no matter what was going to happen at the Combine. I don't think my rankings necessarily changed. I can't necessarily speak for Chickster,
No,
but
they're about the same.
This is kind of where we could see some movement. So we thought it'd be best just to wait on the rest of the rankings after the Combine. Chickster's on spring break, so expect to see quite a few recordings for the rest of the week, starting tonight, maybe tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to be hammering out some of these stuff to catch back. Exactly.
We're recording.
As you guys saw in the title in this one, we're taking a look at the wide receivers. This is kind of being touted as a down year at the wide receiver position. I only have one wide receiver with a first-round grade on my board. However, there's some talent to be had at the bottom half of the second day 2, day 3. Yes.
Does that include Ohtani or no?
I am not putting Ohtani in my top 10 rankings, but as a disclaimer, he would be my wide receiver. I'd probably put him at 1. And for those who aren't following, Ohtani is Travis Hunter out of Colorado, who I think declared as a corner, but he's going to play both ways, especially depending on what situation he upends. I don't have him in my top 10 because I'm kind of going off of the projection that he's kind of giving us that he's going to be declaring as a cornerback, which is probably more beneficial because I think he might be a better corner than a wide receiver. But for the record, I would probably have him at 1.
He's in my top 10. He's in there.
Okay, fair enough.
Wasn't leaving him out.
So anybody who is, shocked at the end of this, by the time they get to 3 and 2 and 1, that Travis Hunter's not in there, just know that he would be if he hadn't declared as a corner. So
fair enough. Fair play.
We are going to start, as we have been for the past couple of episodes, with who is not on our list that might upset the casuals. Chickster, who you said you might have a couple that might upset the casuals. Who's not on your list that might upset some people?
We're just gonna get this one out the way. And granted, if you already stayed this long, you already got the view for us, so thank you. But Matthew Golden's not on here.
Wide receiver out of Texas.
Whatever. I don't believe this reactionary bullshit that you guys are doing to where, like, no one had Matthew Golden anywhere the whole season. Couple games in the playoffs, he plays great. He plays okay. He plays good ball. And now he runs a 4.29 at the combine. Now he's the best wide receiver in the class. Like, you're fucking nutso. You're a fucking idiot. Which, I mean, I will say, to be fair, he's like barely outside the top 10, but he's not top 10 for me. And then he's better than his counterpart, Isaiah Bond. He's fucking ass. He's horrible. Okay, he's fast. What kind of jackass says, "Oh, I'm gonna beat the record," and doesn't even come close to it?
Like you were even within like 0.2 of the time. His first time, I think, was like 4.41 or something like that.
Yeah, this could have been all avoided. He looks less like a jackass. He's like, no, I'm gonna try to beat the record. I'm gonna try to beat the record. There's no times, no nothing. Just say I'm gonna try to beat the record.
There's something to be said about having the confidence in yourself to say something like that if you were going to be close. But when you say stuff like that and you don't end up close in the slightest bit, you do look like a jackass.
No, yes. I mean, for me, it's like a mentality thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say I'm gonna try to beat the record. I'm not gonna give you a time. I'm not gonna say this, but I'm definitely going to try to beat the record. If I don't beat it, you look less like a jackass. Like, well, and the casuals will be happy with you. He's like, well, he tried his hardest. He did. Yeah. He did. So, both of the Texas wide receivers are not in my top 10. So, thank you for the view. If you want to leave now, you can leave. The top, I'm not reacting to the reactionary bullshit that you guys are doing. This one might hurt you a little bit, Garrett. I think this is one of your top 10 guys. That I'm not. He's barely on the outside of the top 10. Jalen Royals. I don't have him on the top 10. I know.
Well, then our rankings are going to look hella different because he is for sure in my rankings.
He's high for you?
Yes.
He's high for you? Okay.
Yep.
Well, no. You got to tell Trey. Trey just messaged us that YouTube said it's live and then it says it's not. Yeah, no, that was Garrett. No, it was really
yeah, I just messaged in the Slack as well. What happened was I always like to make sure that the background is set up and ready to go, right?
It was not.
Yelling. It was not. There was no little thing in the corner up there above Chickster. The background was for a baseball recording that I think DePena and Matt Hannafin are doing. Be sure to check out that information as well because those two are really good at what they do. And there was no banner down at the bottom, the little scrolling shit. And we just went live and I was just like, I panicked. And then I had to end the thing. And then I remembered that I can't pick up again. So I had to go back and send a whole new invite to StreamYard and then set everything up. And then we're live.
So. You were so eager to record with me that you didn't even care what was on.
I just fired the gun. I just missed talking ball with you, Alex. So I got overzealous.
So. Those three are the ones that I have on my list. You could say, what's his name? Ao Manor out of Stanford. I mean, he barely missed the top 10, but it's just So those are my four.
My two that I have, one is it should be pretty obvious, and one's a trendy name as of right now. And they're both guys that you mentioned. The first one is Isaiah Bond. I don't think he should be in anybody's top 20 rankings. Isaiah Bond should potentially maybe even go undrafted. Like Isaiah Bond, is not overly good at what he does. He's fast, but he's averagely fast in this class. We saw the running backs, right? This is the fastest group of running backs in combine history. The statistically speaking in 40-yard dash time, the fastest. Oof. This was a good class running the 40. But when you say you're going to break the record, kind of what the Chickster was saying, when you say you're going to break the record 100% no questions asked and then run the 4.4s, that should take you off of everybody's board in general, compounded with the fact that he does the jumping bullshit that doesn't even result in catches. It results in drops, right? If it's one thing to be fast and then you can work on your route running, but when you are averagely fast and your route running sucks and you're a knucklehead, you should be undraftable, to me. Now, that might upset some people. Isaiah Bond, if I had to guess, is going to be drafted on day 2 of the draft. And everybody here at Vendetta is going to laugh at it. Whatever team that is, I pray to God that it's not the Steelers. But they already traded for wide receivers, so they don't need another one. My other one is Alec Aomanor, is maybe how you pronounce that name, the kid out of Stanford. I don't want to say he's a big riser right now, but he is rising up wide receiver rankings, and I kind of get it. He's got sharp route running skills, good footwork. He's really aggressive, really gritty, plays the middle of the field well. I just took him off of my top 10 literally minutes before we started recording, and I replaced him with my number 10, who we'll get to in a second. But the drops, you can't have drops like that and not be super speed mode. I had the same issue with Devontae Walker 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was a big Devontae Walker guy, and I still like Devontae Walker.
I think he could still, if he could ever just figure out how to catch.
But dude, the Senior Bowl for Devontae Walker was rough, and then he followed it up with a really good combine where he didn't have that many drops. He ran really well. Aomanor ran pretty well for what we were expecting. The drops are still a concern though, because we saw some drops at the combine as well. So I took him off of my number 10 of my top 10 list for my number 10, who is Jack Beck at a TCU.
Yeah.
We tried to do this exercise last year because 2 years ago, I hit the nail on the head with Puka Nacua. Wasn't many people out there who was that high up on Puka as I was.
Nobody was in on Puka until week 1 of the NFL season. All the fantasy guys were like, "Oh, no one's ever heard of this guy."
Right. We tried to find the Puka Nacua in last year's class, and we kind of struggled. Some people were saying it was Ladd, but Ladd was a little bit too high of a profile because he went to Georgia.
Yeah, Ladd was good already.
I think this could be a Puka Nacua type of mold because he 6'2", 220. I think he's a little bit heavier than Puka, but their play styles are very similar. very good route running skills. They are a more than willing blocker in the run game. They are very consistent with their hands. I loved what I saw, especially from the gauntlet at the combine this year, which the gauntlet for me, for some people, kind of an overrated measuring stick at the combine. I
It's
like what it
okay.
showcases because if you can nail that line that you're running down, flip your head really quickly, and you're very consistent with your catches and where you're placed, like where you're catching the ball in coordinates to your body, I feel like that says a lot. And he had a very good gauntlet drill at the combine, and I still carry some weight in that. So I think that if there's somebody that you want to take a flyer on in day 3 of the draft, in day 4 or so, I would be trying to find a way to get the TCU kid on my team because I really like what he has.
Well, there's a lot of talk about Savion Williams too, which he's a big body kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at those big body people from TCU, and you're like, well, is it Quinton Johnston or Quentin Johnston or not, right? So,
Right.
To be fair, if you read some of Trey's stuff, Trey's not you. I know you read Trey's stuff, but I'm talking viewers. Trey like how Beck played. And I think the gauntlet it is about catching. But it is also about staying on that line.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like Lord knows, and this is me. Usually Chickser's not humble, but I don't think I could run in a straight line and keep going back and forth and catching. I would be able to catch him. Well, I would probably be all over the fucking line. I'm not going to hold you. So I think that is a key. And what it shows is that you have awareness of your body and where you need to be. And I think that's the underrated part. Like, people are like, why the fuck the guy stay on the line? It's about, knowing where you're at on the field, being able to stay, like, having control of your body and knowing and still being able to whip your head around and get catches. You're going to laugh at this one. Maybe. I don't know if you took him out of your top 10. I have Tez Johnson at 10.
I'm not going to laugh because he's higher than 10 on my list. I had him out at first, and then I started going back and watching a little bit more, and I'll get into Tez later, but he's on my list as well.
Reactionary, very, very reactionary bullshit. I was talking about the Matthew Golden stuff. I was like, where is he on my list? I took him off my top 10 after the combine. Horrible showing at the combine. Let's just call it how it is. Trey's on this whole spiel about calling it how it is and how these NFL draft people, they don't do that. Let's call it how it is. I don't know why. And you ever think about it? Like, people are not negative enough when they talk about the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
They don't flat out just say this guy sucks.
People are afraid of pushback by saying a guy sucks. And I don't really get that because, like, if a guy sucks, why are we trying to put the effort into saying, well, he has these qualities, but he's got these opportunities? If a guy sucks, he sucks. There's just no, like, Isaiah Bond sucks. He's not going to be a good NFL pro. He's not. No. He has no future in the NFL, and I'm not afraid to say that now.
And don't you bitches, do not come at us if he's a wide receiver 4 on a team and he has one game for like 7 catches and like 80 yards or whatever and has like a touchdown. Don't be like, well, I thought you were gonna be like. Everyone's gonna have it. Like, these are
everyone can pop,
but like, no, it's not gonna. Are you gonna get that on a consistent basis?
No, you're not.
So, but going back to Tez Johnson, that combine was horrible, and call it out, it was horrible. You have to. This is like, you can't be straight combine, you can't be straight tape all the time. I went. You had to go back to the tape. You have to respect his tape. You have to go watch, and you had to make sure, okay, he could still play. Is he undersized? Yeah, 5'10", 155 pounds. Like, Jesus Christ, he weighs as much as a wet paper towel. Okay,
he's not even 5'10", he's 5'9".
5'9",
even worse.
And really, what you're looking for out of those guys that are that small and that underweight, you're like, okay, can they run? No. Now, immediately, people are like, Tez Johnson's Tutu Atwell, and Tutu Atwell is not good. I already think he's better than Tutu Atwell.
He got paid.
Well, and I don't even think Tutu Atwell is that good. So
not necessarily, no,
but. So you have to look at his tape, and you kind of have to respect his tape. And yes, you have to look at the combine, but we already knew Tez Johnson wasn't going to be a burner. We already knew he wasn't going to be a big guy. He can catch the ball. He's going to be strictly possession. Like he's going to be a possession, and he might pull a fucking Tyler Lockett and just go down as soon as he catches the ball. And that might be what he does in the NFL. He's going to catch the ball. He can still run routes. He can still do all that. He's just not going to be fast. He's not going to be big. You're not going to put him in on a fucking blocking play. Like if you're running the ball, you're not going to put him in on a wide receiver screen. So, he comes in at 10. He's got to put some weight on. I would love to see him put some weight on. I would love to see him be in that weight room, get a little bit bigger, even at his size. Because if he's playing the slot, he's going to have nickel corners and everybody. And the NFL cornerbacks are always going to be more physical. So in order to succeed in the NFL, he's got to put some weight on. But I think he'll be fine. He's going to list at number 10.
I had the same reaction post combine where it's like, well, because you hit the nail on the head. The shorter guys in stature who weigh less, in theory, should be running faster. And then we saw the times he posted at the combine, and we're like, well, so not only is he not fast, he's small.
Yeah.
Where does he fit? Because, yeah, people immediately wanted to do the Tutu Atwell thing. And, like, Tutu Atwell had a really, really bad showing at the Senior Bowl, if some people remember that. There's the famous clip of him, like, completely breaking the ankles on, like, what was supposed to be a post, and he ended up breaking back in, completely dusted his guy wide open, and dropped the pass on a one-on-one rep. That's how his performance was at the Senior Bowl. Whereas, like, Tez Johnson, like, yes, he didn't run very fast. However, his stuff that he did on the field really solid. We'll get to Tez Johnson here in a second because he's not even my number 9 either. My number 9 is Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State.
Oh, I have him higher.
He is the people's winner, we'll call it, from the Senior Bowl this year. He had an outstanding showing at the Senior Bowl. He was consistently winning one-on reps. He was consistently showcasing skills in the team drills. And then he followed it up with a nice combine performance as well. I think the big thing you're getting with him is massive catch radius, right?
Mm-hmm.
You throw it anywhere in his direction, he's likely to come down with it because he's got really sure hands, not a ton of drops in college, 6'4" with an 80-inch wingspan. He's going to catch anything that goes by him, right? You get it in that big old radius of his. He's sneaky athletic too. Like his short
he moves well.
His short field burst isn't what you're going to want it to be, right? But he has almost that extra gear that what you're looking for from a guy his size. But the route running is not bad. The route tree is fine, right? What I would like to see when he gets into an NFL camp is working on those in and out breaking routes, right? Because the footwork going into those cuts, not very convincing, right? Because when you're a wide receiver, you want to sell when you're going one way if you're going the opposite direction, right? If you're going in breaking into the middle of the field, you want to fake like you're going to break out, you're going to break back in, right? And vice versa. Post, come back, whatever, right? You want to sell those routes that you're not running to get to the place where you want to be. He doesn't really excel in that. And I think that's one area that he can really, really sharpen up. And if he does that, he could be a pretty decent pro. He lands at number 9 for me.
I think he moves well for his size. I know the quickness thing, but really those 6'4" guys, not a lot of them are gonna be quick. And then he could work on his route running a little bit. If he just gets a little bit lighter and just a little bit sharper, then I think he'll be. He's a little bit higher on my list, but I don't hate people having him lower. I just kind of like him a little bit more. Number 9 on my list, Ricky White, out of Las Vegas, UNLV. I said it this time. Yeah, sure. Right. Tez Johnson from Oregon, by the way. Ricky White from UNLV. Man, the main thing I like about Ricky White is he's shifty. Like that guy, I mean, he might not kill you with speed. He doesn't have the size out of it, but he's going to run routes. He's gonna be quick off the line. He's gonna run routes really sharp. I have him at 9. Being in a smaller school, you don't get as much attention. I think he could. I think he could surprise some people, especially he might be a later round fine if you can get him maybe like 5th, 4th round, maybe like that's. I feel like it's a good sweet spot for him. But I think he could be like just your a slot guy for you, really. Might be a little bit bigger for a slot, but I kind of like him. He's just very shifty. Will be able to catch the ball. Or no, not Ricky White. Ricky White sometimes he has problems catching the ball at times, but how shifty, I think I'm always a big believer as you can teach someone to catch the ball. Like the hard stuff, sometimes.
Occasionally.
Sometimes. Don't get me wrong. We both know about Darius Heyward-Bey. Okay, like dude could run out the fucking gym or run off the field, but I could not catch his drop a heck of balls. I love that. 8 overall, by the way. Don't you love NFL draft season? The Raiders picks always make me so happy.
And last year they nailed the first 2 picks.
They did, and then we fired the GM. So,
well, anyway, I liked Ricky White's game for the majority of the season. I don't have him in my top 10, and he's probably around that 11 to 14-ish range. The biggest concern I had with Ricky White is poor testing at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
People expected him to be faster, didn't run very well. Nope. The biggest area of concern for me was short area burst, getting off of the line of scrimmage, a massive struggle for him. You be physical with him off the line with like press man coverage. He's not super reliable, but for a guy that is undersized, his 10-yard split was 1.65. That's not good for a wide receiver at all. Now I understand that like wide receivers, they could start slow, find that next gear, right? But in today's NFL, I want a wide receiver, if that is like your trademark thing, I want you to be fast from the jump and then hit that extra gear. The testing numbers, I know the testing numbers aren't everything stat schmats, if you know, you know. They're not the biggest deal, right? But for me, looking at wide receivers, specifically a guy like Ricky White, kind of a disappointing combine performance for me, so he's off of my list for now.
I'm hoping that his footwork will be how he kind of creates separation off the line, and that's what I'm kind of looking at. You talked about like he's probably not going to get you one step and go. Like you're still going to be there, but I think because you know how not comparing him to Davante Adams, but you know how Davante Adams will do a few steps here, boom, boom, to try to create separation. But then again, Davante Adams is Davante Adams, so you can't. But I kind of see that form instead of trying to just beat people straight off the line. Are you on 8 or am I on?
I'm on 8. I'm on 8.
Go ahead.
This is my spot for Tez Johnson. Originally, before the combine, I had him closer to 6, maybe. He was never a top 5 wide receiver in the class for me. But after the combine, he ends up landing in the 8th spot. It's funny that people compare, I know I mentioned this just a second ago about Tutu Atwell, about he had a really bad showing at the Senior Bowl. Tez Johnson was a killer at the Senior Bowl. He murdered people in the one-on-ones. Like, it was never close.
Mm-hmm.
He's so twitched up. He is absolutely twitched out of his mind. We were just talking about Ricky White, how he struggles to get off the line. Tez Johnson has no problem getting off the line of scrimmage because of how shifty he is. In breaking routes, huge plus working in the middle of the field for a guy of his size. I worry about taking a guy like Tez Johnson too high because he can never play outside.
No.
He will always be a slot receiver, which is funny because I have a couple of slot receivers in my top 5.
Well, but he's always going to be a passing wide receiver.
You'll never have him on rundowns. Never. No, you'll never have him on a running down. You cannot do it because he doesn't have the physicality to his game because he's as heavy as this fucking rubber duck right here. Like that's how heavy he weighs.
If you do, you're gonna have like pretty much like a Trips Bunch to where he doesn't really have to block.
Like he's just out there getting
in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But even then, I could see having him out there for those screens to be the primary ball catcher as well. So like you can be creative and package him in certain ways and it might work out in your favor. But if he falls in the wrong system where it's like a run heavy offense, he's going to be swallowed by that depth chart and he's not going to be able to stand out, which he's super talented. If there's anybody that I would like 100% understand if you reach for him in the right offense, like a super pass heavy offense, to be that twitched up guy just to get the ball in his hands to let him cook, it would be Tez Johnson. I just think that that weight and that height is a concern for the 40 time that he posted. But I still, like you said at the top, the whole pre-draft process is watching all-star events, we'll call it. Senior Bowl, East-West game, Combine, right? That's in one bunch. Then over here, you have all the tape from the college football season. You have to find ways to pick both of them and put them together into your draft profile. I think for him, let's maybe not look as much at the Combine, but still in the back of our heads a little bit. We go towards the college tape with a guy like Tez Johnson, and that's where I lean, where I placed him on the rankings.
Fair enough. 8. This is actually some of Trey's doing. I put Dante Thornton here. Trey was very. I was like, all right, I'll go look. That's. I'm like, all right. He put a guy that I don't know. All right, let me.
I mean, he put Jordan James at running back too, even after the Combine. I watched the tape and I just don't get it. So like, maybe I'm missing something with Dante Thornton as well. But
I don't know. So this is the only thing. This would be short and sweet. Not to bring fantasy into this, but we could bring fantasy into this. Okay, as I said, not to. Dante Thornton is going to be a best ball type
merchant.
Of player. Yeah, merchant. I mean, that dude might sit on your bench for weeks, and then he will just explode.
Yeah, he'll have two catches for. That's crazy. He'll have 2 catches for like 90 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, like you're not gonna like. He's fast as fuck. Obviously, 4.30 run time.
At 6'5" as well, right? He's 6'5" or 6'4".
6'5".
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, no, he doesn't. Route running might not be there. I mean, shit like that. He's gonna be able to catch the ball. He's big as fuck, and he's gonna run really fucking fast. So, he's going to be in the red zone. He's going to be useful in the red zone. He's going to, long third downs. You can even go long second downs. He's going to be out there. He's going to make the defense respect him. So yeah, when we talk about does he have the route running? Maybe not. But he's going to make plays. He's going to make fucking plays. That dude is going to be a big play, and he might be a guy that you just give it to on a slant, and he's going to make big things happen just because of how fast he is and how big he is. So, in terms of talent, maybe not there. Maybe as a pure wide receiver, maybe not there. Is he athletic as fuck and he's big as fuck, and is he going to make defenses pay? Yeah, he's going to. We just talked about how talented Tez Johnson is. Tez Johnson is more talented than this kid, but Dante Thornton might be able to make a lot more plays than Tez Johnson if he's in the right system. As good. So that's where it comes down to. That's where go ahead.
No, I was gonna interrupt you. Go ahead. You just seemed like you were trying to find words, so I was just gonna.
It was just it's how you use them. It's always gonna be how people use players, and I guess some NFL teams haven't figured this out. But if you draft a player, you should know how to use them.
In theory, yeah, you'd like to think at least.
Like, don't just draft players just to draft them. Like, draft players, especially when we're in the later rounds. Like, maybe first round, second round guys, yeah. Oh, that guy's just good as fuck. We'll figure it out. But when you get to the later rounds, you need guys for your system, and you got to know how to draft them. But
I think, and I'm gonna take off my headset really quick, but I'm gonna keep talking so you can hear me because
Okay.
I'm getting hot as shit in this hoodie, and I have a tank top underneath, so ignore the forehead. I think if you took
what kind of show is this?
Speed from if you took the speed from Dante Thornton and put it into Tez Johnson would probably be a first round pick, I think. Like, I don't care about the size or whatever, however you want to phrase it, but like, if you're that twitched up and you run 4.3 like that, it's game over. It's absolutely game over. I forgot to put on the hat. I'm still in shambles from the start of the recording, as you guys can tell.
Yeah, you've just been in shambles since you came in.
What?
You were in shambles since you came in.
Dude, it's bad. Yeah, I don't have him in my top 10, but I can understand wanting to take the flyer on putting him in the rankings. I think that's what Trey kind of said too. I can't remember if it was in the post or maybe in the Slack or something. But in a weaker class with a bunch of question marks outside of arguably the top 3, I think, why not just throw the dart and just see what happens? Because like you said, he may sit for weeks out of the year where he posts 0 targets, 0 receptions. But there's going to be some of those games where he goes for 3 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown because he can take the top off the defense. So
he's going to make plays.
This is my number 7 wide receiver. This is where I have Matthew Golden out of Texas. I can't put him any higher because I don't see it. And you brought up a good point. It seems like we do this every year where people are off radars all year long until the final 3 calendar weeks of the year, and then the start of the pre-draft process where we just start blowing the shit out of these guys. And we're gonna talk about that when it comes to the offensive line rankings, which will probably be next with the kid out of Missouri, the right tackle, Mimbu Armand, whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
I've never heard of his name before middle of January, into January, 1st of February. And all of a sudden he's the top tackle in the class? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, there's no way.
He's the top tackle in the class?
People have him mocking as the first tackle taken off the board. When I sent that mock draft where I think I sent a mock draft in the group chat that we're in of predicting what's going to happen, I think I'd had him in the top 10 because somebody's going to take him top 10 because this kind of thing happens every single year. And that's happening with Matthew Golden as well, where Matthew Golden, I promise you, was not in top 10 rankings in early September. He just wasn't. And I challenge you to go find a ranking posted from September where he was in the top 5 even.
November.
He just wasn't in there. No. And you expect me to believe that he's the top wide receiver in the class when we have guys like Ermac and Emeka Ibuka? No, there's no way.
Right.
The speed, it's great. Right. And apparently he ran at the combine still recovering from a high ankle sprain. So at Texas's pro day, he might run faster. Now, granted, keep in mind that at pro days, numbers tend to be a little bit more fluffed. Right. So don't be surprised if we see like 4.25 out of Matthew Golden at the pro day. Don't be shocked. Oh, because of the high ankle sprain, and oh, he was always going to run faster at the pro day because he was recovering from the high ankle sprain. Whatever, get the fuck out of here. I will say, to his credit, there are some parts of his game that I do like. I think he works very well underneath, right? He can take the top off the defense with that speed. If you don't ask him to run very precise routes, he can do well. I think you get him in motion, right? Bubble screens, whatever, just get the ball in his hands. He is a shifty player with the ball in his hands. My biggest concern, and no one seems to be talking about this, he drops the ball quite a bit at Texas. He has a number of drops at Texas.
No way.
And what I really love in wide receivers is how willing are you to block in run plays? When we have sweeps to the outside, stretches, pitches, and it's coming to your side, how willing are you to go out there and block your man? I think if Matthew Golden had it his way, he would never be on the field for run plays. Yeah. Genuinely. He refuses to block on run plays. Even if the ball's on the other side of the field, you never see him engaged with I know, pushing a little bit, whatever, because the plate's on the other side of the field. He's never engaged. I don't get the hype around Matthew Golden. I probably wouldn't take him in the first 2 to 3 rounds of the NFL draft, I don't think. And that might speak to
the first 3.
That might speak to the talent or maybe lack thereof in this class, but like I just don't, it's not there for me. I don't see it.
Yeah. I agree. That's why he was kind of out of my top 10. But really that was me sticking it to the man. I probably could have found somewhere where you could be top 10, but I just didn't want to. You know what I mean?
Trey didn't have him in his top 10 either, which I can also get. I get that as well. So
yeah. So 7 for me. This is where I put Jaden Higgins. You kind of hit everything that you needed to hit earlier. Played great at the Senior Bowl. Is tall. Maybe not the sharpest route running, but you know what? He actually moves pretty well for his size. I'm not gonna sit here and just repeat everything. So I have Jaden Higgins at 7. A lot of the same reasons, but I just have him a little bit higher. So the studs that you kind of, I just have him a little bit higher. That's all it is.
That's entirely fair. And we've been saying it throughout the course of this video, is that this is kind of a weird class outside of your probably top 5 to 3 receivers. So everybody's rankings are probably going to shift. So I like having Jaden Higgins a little bit higher. I get the appeal for sure.
It's all like, they're all like grouped up. Almost like
there's no real difference makers.
Yeah. And the reason why it's because it's like, yeah, like this guy's good for this reason, this guy's good for this reason. Which one do you prefer? And it's like, but none of them are so good in what they're good at that they separate from the rest of the group, except for like when we get to the top. Really, I would say the top 6, maybe. Top 6 is where I think there's a difference for me. But
I could see that, where we're entering like that second tier of wide receivers, maybe like a fringe third tier of wide receivers.
Yeah.
Speaking of the top 6, like Chickster said, Chickster, I will admit, was ahead of the hype, I feel like, than most people on this player. If you relate back to the way too early 2025 NFL draft wide receiver rankings, which we did post-draft last year, which you can find on ZetaSportsMedia.com, taken out at the bottom. This is where I have Xavier Restrepo out of Miami.
Same.
Perfect. We will go back and forth on Restrepo, then I'll go to 5. For me, this is this year's Ladd McConkey, except maybe just a little bit lower. Like, we all were a little bit higher on Ladd than the majority last year, and I tried to find room to have Xavier a little bit higher than 6, and I kind of struggled.
I couldn't do it any higher.
But, dude, the route running on this kid is next level. He's probably one of the better route runners in the entire class.
Mm-hmm.
He is so shifty in short yardage situations. He had a really good 10-yard split at the combine. I thought he ran pretty well.
Quick.
He is very, very quick. He's, for a smaller guy, right? Like, he's going to be a primary slot receiver. I have him much higher than a guy like Tez Johnson because of the footwork. The route tree is expansive. He's got a huge route tree, and he can run those routes as an X receiver too. You want him to go run those posts, those comebacks. Like, I know you don't really typically run those routes out of the slot the majority of the time, but I mean, shit, if there's an injury situation, you got to play him outside. He's got the route running to make it work. Do I think he'll ever be a wide receiver 1 in a system? No, I don't. However, I would love a guy like Xavier Restrepo on my team because he's also super physical as well. He's going to get there and mix it up on rundowns as well. Like, he's a more than willing blocker, super physical, and the IQ really stands out to me as well. That's one thing I look for if the receiver feels zone coverage. Can you find the soft spots in zone coverage to go and sit? Not obviously sit for some people who might be confused watching the video. Sit meaning finding the spot, turn back to the quarterback, and you're literally just planted there. Maybe a little bit shifty here or there, but where can you find that spot to sit in zone coverage? He does that very well. I really like Xavier Restrepo's game.
He's tough as fuck. He is a tough motherfucker. Like, and I think that's what kind of separates. Like, is he undersized? No. Well, he is undersized, but he's not 30 pounds undersized. He's not 30 pounds undersized like Tez Johnson is. But he has a certain toughness to him. He's gonna play hard. Much of the same thing as we saw of Ladd McConkey. He's like a notch less, I feel like could be. So I like him a lot. I think what really helped his draft stock though is playing with Cam Ward and Cam Ward being
I agree.
Good. And that kind of brought more attention to him as well. But tough motherfucker, quick. His route running, you already kind of hit everything on the nail, but he's gonna be good. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes round 2. If you get him in the round 3, I think that's a steal.
Mm-hmm.
So
I 100% agree. I think that there is room to take the slot guys a little bit higher.
Vlad McConkey went second round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Early
second round too. He went early second round. I mean, same thing with JSN coming out as well. He was kind of dubbed as the slot guy, and he went first round. It took him a little while to like really find that like potential of being a first round wide receiver. But man, last year he balled out. Shout out to Leia in the
he's
background.
by himself now. He's gonna.
That is true. That is true. He's got to do it all himself. Yeah, I think if you can land a guy like Restrepo in the third round, like you said, I think that's a steal.
That's the X-Man.
This is where we're on number 5 because we both had Xavier Restrepo out of Miami at number 6. My number 5 is somebody who Alex didn't have on his board at all. This is where I have Jalen Royals out of Utah State. I really started paying attention to Royals in late October, early November, and I made it a point to try to find his highlights every single week from that point on. And I love what I'm seeing out of Jalen Royals. He's super athletic. He played basketball in high school. He did the high jump in high school as well. So he's got natural athletic ability. The footwork, the route running is next level. He was a super producer at Utah State as well. That kind of on the flip side of that, he played at Utah State. The level of competition is going to obviously exponentially go up when he reaches the next level. How does that translate? But at the same time, he's somebody with the frame to play outside, but in the right system, if you need him to play inside of the slot, he can do that as well because of the route running prowess that he has. He's got really soft hands, very sure catcher, not a ton of drops in college. I think he, out of this like tier 2 to fringe tier 3 guys in the NFL draft, if there's someone who can pop as a early day 3 pick, I think it could be someone like Jalen Royals. I love what I see out of him.
Yeah, I can see all that. I just didn't put him in. Part of me just didn't put him in because I know you liked him. I just want to see.
That's crazy work.
I just wanted to see what your reaction was.
I mean, I said the same thing in the Slack when Trey released his wide receiver rankings, which you can find him at thedispertmedia.com. I was surprised that he didn't have Restrepo or Jalen Royals on his list.
Oh, he didn't have Restrepo on there?
I don't believe so. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I can't remember.
No, he didn't because he had fucking Keandre Lampert Smith and Jimmy Horn Jr. in his top 10, but not someone like Xavier or Luther or Jalen Royals, rather, excuse me.
Interesting.
But I mean, shit, the 6 through 10 and I guess this would be 5 through 10, so I have him at 5. The 5 through 10 could be anybody's guess because it's such a weird class because it's not as great as years past.
Yeah. Number 5 for me, this is where I put Trey Harris. And I think we might actually have similar from you from 4 on up and me from 5 on up because you didn't put Travis Hunter. So, and I did. But you kind of alluded to it earlier when you were talking about Matthew Golden. I also like wide receivers. I was like, are you going to go block when I need a block? Are you going to – and Trey Harris is going to do that. And not only is he going to do that, that dude's big as fuck, and he's going to go block. Like, that dude's going to –
Dude's built.
Yeah, that dude's big. So, he's going to go block. He's going to catch everything. He's going to be a really good red zone threat. If you throw it near him, he's going to be physical, and he's going to go up for it and go get it. Maybe not as much route running here and there, but I mean, he's going to be able to play. He's going to play. So, he rounds out the top 5 for me. But, you know, I think playing for Ole Miss kind of helped, playing with Jackson Dart, which that helped Jackson Dart's stock for what it is, playing with a guy like Trey Harris too. So I actually think that maybe Trey Harris is a little bit more talented than Jackson Dart, but of course, like in the respective positions.
Right. No, you're right.
So,
and we're going to continue the conversation on Trey Harris because I have Trey Harris out of Ole Miss at my number 4 position. He is somebody that if you need to go win a one-on-one, you can trust Trey Harris to go do it.
He's going to win it.
He can high point the ball very well. He is built from that Ole Miss mold where they just keep spitting out tall, strong motherfuckers, right? We saw it with DK. We saw it with AJ Brown. Now we're seeing it with Trey Harris to maybe a lesser extent. He's not as big and yoked as the guys I just mentioned, but he is very, very cut. He's thick for what he is. You
Pause.
also hit on it that the route running may not 100% be there. While he does have a limited route tree, the routes that are in his tree, I think he does run pretty well.
Yeah.
I think that expanding that route tree, cleaning up the footwork, maybe being able to flip those hips a little bit on curls, comebacks, I think that could be pretty important as well for his development at least. But I think that, I mean, he showed up in big games, right? His biggest games of
For
the year,
sure.
big SEC games rather. He was a producer, and that could also maybe be said about Jackson Dart as well, that he played well in big moments for the most part. I think that he has a ton of potential. It's just harnessing what he has untapped and unleashing it.
Yeah. Real quick side note. I think the Ole Miss jerseys with the light blue and the red are fucking cold as shit.
Nasty.
Can we just talk about how like that is a cold ass jersey? Every time like Ole Miss wearing these jerseys, I'm like, I might just watch just because I want to look at the jerseys. I ain't gonna hold you. Like those jerseys are clean. Now like the navy blue and the red, yeah, they're good. Like it's a good color scheme, but
yeah,
when they put that light blue on,
I will say, and I don't think I'm putting you on game with this, and then we'll get back to the rankings. But if I'm flipping through like the morning slate and there's not really anything good on, if I see San Diego State playing,
oh yeah,
dude, the Aztecs jerseys are hard.
I love their basketball court. Their basketball court, it's really just loud and it's very like just
in your face.
And I fucking love it. I'm like San Diego State, whoever is in charge of their brand marketing or whatever,
needs a raise.
They're they're kind of whatever.
I know what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, the fashion or whatever. Yeah, needs a raise. Awesome job. Keep it up.
I am a sucker for
you're in my
jerseys.
Top 10. Okay, you're in my top 10. All right. We're at 4 for me. Is this 4? 4 for me. 4. This is where I put Luther Burden. Garrett, when we talked on when we did Hard Locks, thank you.
Yes.
When we did Hard Locks and we were always talking, we had to pick Missouri games. And I was always like, is Missouri even like good? Is Luther Burden really that good? If you remember, he was the best thing since sliced bread when we came into this college football season. Like everyone, well, not everyone, but not mine, but he was the undisputed top wide receiver, and I'm just like, is he though? Like, is he? Is he really that good? You know, because now we have Matthew Golden as the top wide. No, but
it's crazy.
No, it's just and don't get me wrong, he's good. He is good. Obviously, he's top 4 for me. He's top 4 for me, top 3 if you take out Travis Hunter. And you say Travis Hunter's a corner. That's fine. But I never really bought into he is the top wide receiver in this class. He could play. You know, he's a little undersized. He's 5'10". Probably will be a slot guy in the NFL. And he's good. He's really good. I just would not put him nothing about him screams he is the top wide receiver in this class because Matthew Golden's here now. But no, but there's nothing about him. I had to double it down. There's nothing about him that screams he's the top wide receiver in this class to me. And that's where I think we need to, like, if you're going to say someone's the top wide receiver in your class, you need to have reasoning for it. And I don't have reasoning for Luther Burden being the top wide receiver in this class. I never did. I never really bought into that. So if you're one of those people that are saying, yeah, Luther Burden is the top wide receiver in the class, not only do you need to have a reasoning for that, you need to convince me that 2, if not 3, if you include Travis Hunter, that he's better than all 3 of those guys. And he's not to me. He comes in at top 4, which is not a bad ranking. Probably a second round pick, which is fine. But might be a first round pick. I would not pick him in first round.
I'm trying to find the way too early rankings from last year to see where we had. Yeah, I found it just now.
I think I had it at 2.
I had him as number 1, which is funny that you mentioned that. You had him at 4. So
On the money.
We'll just go over
on the fucking money.
We'll just go over the list really quick, just for fun.
On the money.
Number 1 was Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. 2 was Ermac out of Arizona. 3 was Drake Stoops out of Oklahoma.
I ain't gonna hold you. I didn't know he even got drafted. That was on me. That was me saying that he needed to be in college another year. That's cool.
5 was Travis Hunter. 6 was Trey Harris. 7 was Isaiah Bond, which is funny. 8 Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. 9 is Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. 10 was J.J. Jones out of North Carolina. My top 10.
I mean, some of those are good.
You were pretty close, yeah.
I mean,
my 1 was Luther Burden, Ermac, Emeka Egbuka. I had Torrey Horton at number 4, and if he wasn't coming off of torn ACL, he definitely would have made my top 10. Torrey Horton could be a pretty good pro. Mm-hmm. He ran fast while still recovering from the ACL, and he should be able to run faster. My 5 was Isaiah Bond, which is funny. 6 was Tez Johnson, which I had him 8. 7 was Trey Harris. 8 was Evan Stewart, who's not eligible. I think went back at least.
He went back because he would have been in my top 10.
9 was Berrien Brown, who went back, who I think potentially could have been a top 10 as well. And then my 10 was, and this is funny, because I was banking on future Hall of Famer having a Hall of Fame type year. I had Moose Muhammad as my top 10 wide receiver out of Texas A&M, which he played all right this year. Obviously, future Hall of Famer didn't live up to the allure that we're talking about. We're talking about
Connor Weigman, and Trey started this thing because Garrett liked him this year before the season started, and Trey was Trey.
We'll just put it like that. Trey was Trey.
Anything around Trey, he's gonna hold on to it because he has this.
He's got the memory of an elephant.
Vendetta. That he has to prove you wrong at any chance he gets. So if you like a person and he doesn't like a person, he is going to
never hear the end of
it. So the best thing to do is just to lean into it and then just
roll with it. That's all you really can do.
So he's not really Connor Weigman, a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's leaning into the joke.
Which, to be fair, I didn't either. Just to say, I did say that I thought Weigman was going to have a breakout year. Did he have that? No. Could he have that at Houston this year? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know.
We'll see.
Going into our top 3 rankings, this is where I have Luther Burden, former 5-star recruit, former National Player of the Year, if I remember correctly. He was also the top wide receiver prospect in high school in his draft class. That accounts for something here. He ran better at the combine than what I expected him to. The 40-yard dash looked a little bit faster than maybe what I was expecting. I have a hard time putting him any higher than 3 because I don't know if I'm just getting a gadget guy or not. I don't know. Like, he could just be a gadget guy. He could be like a great value version of the Walmart brand of Deebo Samuel, which Trey hates that comparison, and I don't necessarily get it either. But, like, are we sure that's his ceiling, is that he's just primary slot, super quick, XYZ, right? The underneath routes, they call him the Yak King for a reason, because you put the ball in his hands, he's physical, he can break tackles, he can be shifty. I just don't know that he can be super consistent as a potential wide receiver 1 to take him any higher than 3. Now, what I will say is that he can block when he wants to, and he returned punts in college, which I like as well. But I don't know that I can put him any higher because I still don't 100% know what I'm getting.
Yeah, for sure. All good notes. Listen, we have the same, basically 2 and 1 if we take out Travis Hunter.
Correct.
I'm just gonna talk about Travis Hunter and then we'll talk about 2 and 1.
Do your thing.
Travis Hunter is Ohtani. Dude's fucking athletic as shit. I think he's better, as Garrett said earlier, way early in the episode. I think Travis Hunter is better as a corner than he is a wide receiver. Still stupid fucking talented at being a wide receiver. Will catch, athletic, route running, all that, corner wise, physical, all that shit. So he's Otani. I mean, at this point, if you don't have him at least top 2 in wide receiver, then I don't know what we're doing. Like that's where I'm at.
That's
so
fair.
you're not going to hear anything about Travis Hunter that you haven't heard already. So that's 2 for me. And so if you take out Travis Hunter, my other 2 is Emeka Ibuka, which I believe that's yours as well, Garrett.
Correct. We have the same last 2.
Yeah. So, which is so I had Ermac, Ibuka, and then I had Luther Burden. No, I had Luther Burden at 4. I had Drake Stoops at 3.
Yeah, you had Drake Stoops at 3.
I didn't know he even got drafted. That's the bad part.
Let's look up Drake Stoops' stats last year.
We don't even have to do that. If anything, it just means like Bronny James that he needed to stay in college. That's all.
He was drafted last year, and he's also, as of yesterday, suspended for the first 2 games of the year for violating the PED usage in the NFL.
He was trying to have a better season. What is the problem?
That's so funny.
I
can't believe I didn't catch that before.
Off.
You had a pretty good ranking. It wasn't bad. I mean, we both had Isaiah Bond pretty high, which now we're saying he's basically undraftable. But hey, you know what? Sometimes you have misses, sometimes you have hits. And Chickster, from the beginning of the year to now, had a fair amount of hits. So kudos to you.
And this is the most I've watched college football this year.
Proud of you.
I made it a goal to watch more college football because, 1, fantasy. 2,
helps.
Football is just football. So the more, and like Trey really kind of hits the nail on the head on this. He's like, if you don't watch the Saturday game, you're not going to understand the Sunday game. That's what it is. And the more you know about like NFL draft guys, then the better. Emeka Ibuka, go ahead. You can do it.
It might be a bit of a lazy comparison to compare him to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who also played at Ohio State. But if I remember correctly, I had JSN as the wide receiver 1 in the class. You could,
that sounds right.
That could probably be fact checked, but
that sounds right.
Trey had the thing with JSN when JSN was coming out. I know he has the same thing with Emeka Ibuka coming out. Oh, they're just a slot guy. That is fair, but I almost feel like that is a compliment because you are complimenting the route running prowess that these guys have. But Emeka Ibuka proved this year he can also play outside as well. Now, granted, he played with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and all of these fucking freaks of nature at Ohio State, right? But JSN is a former five-star prospect in his own right. He is faster than the tape shows, or the stat show rather. He may not run the fastest 40 time out of all the wide receivers in this class, but his play speed significantly faster, which is what I like. I am enamored with these Ohio State wide receivers the last couple of years. We had the same thing going on with LSU wide receivers as well.
Is there anything that tells you should not take an Ohio State? If you didn't watch any football and you saw a Ohio State wide receiver coming into the draft, you're taking out Ohio State wide receiver.
100%.
Like there's no like at this point, and it's like Georgia guys too. Like you're good, like your guy on Georgia defense,
people on defense, 100%.
Yeah, Georgia defense, you're just gonna take. If you didn't watch a lick of football, if you see a guy or maybe offensive lines like Xavier Truss, maybe not very high on people's boards. There's another one.
They play for Georgia, so like you got to take a shot.
Tate
Ratledge. Tate Ratledge, yeah.
Yep, him. He plays for Georgia. You might just want to take a fucking flyer on him. I mean,
it's the same thing that we kind of went through with LSU wide receivers as well, is that we had Jettas, we had Jamar Chase, we had Malik Neighbors, who I was way ahead of as well, for what it's worth. I was super ahead on Malik Neighbors. we're going to see that with Kyron Lacy. Then he was a fucking knucklehead. But we're seeing that with Ohio State wide receivers now. Is we got it with Chris Olave. We got it with Jackson Smith-Njigba. We're going to get it with Emeka Egbuka. Garrett Wilson. We're going to see it with Marvin Harrison. We're going to 100% see it with Jeremiah Smith, right? Carnell Tate would be a wide receiver 1 on most programs in college football, and he was wide receiver 3 this year.
He's underrated.
Think about that. Yeah. Carnell Tate is going to be a very good pro.
And Will Howard is still ass.
Yeah, Will Howard really sucks. Will Howard's really, really bad. But yeah, Emeka Egbuka is wide receiver 2 for both of us. I'll let you take the reins on our wide receiver 1.
I mean, I can't say his name, but
it's Ermac. Ermac out of Arizona.
It's Ermac until someone can pronounce his name. I feel bad for Roger, who has to go out there and he's going to have to say his fucking name. You better start practicing now, Roger, and don't be drinking. Do you remember the COVID draft when he was drinking and it was noticeable?
Slurring those words.
Dude. It was noticeable. He was like, the next pick is harsh. Dude, the only thing on Arizona that was worth talking about, people were talking about Noah Fafita.
Because of Ermac.
Because of Ermac. And you don't know that
I don't even think Fafita is bad, but playing with a guy like Ermac certainly helps your draft stuff.
To the casual ear, you don't know who Noah Fafita is.
Correct. That's correct.
And that's what it. And so the reason why people even knew who that guy was is because of Ermac. Ermac is so big, everyone knew he was getting the ball. Got the ball anyway. Tall as hell, physical, will block, route running, everything. And I mean, that was part of the reason why, even as maybe someone that hasn't watched a ton of college football and started watching a ton of college football this year, is why I had him as wide receiver 1, because I already knew those things about him, and I already knew he was going to produce. And then this year just kind of proved that was true. So he's gonna do. He is your stereotypical wide receiver 1. I say all this, and people are saying the Raiders are going to draft him. Please don't. Like, don't draft him at 6. Not at 6. Like, not at 6.
He is the only wide receiver in this class with a first-round grade, for me at least.
I could put, well, Hunter, but here and there.
Yes.
And I could put Egbuka. I could do that too. I would be okay with both of those as well.
Yeah.
But everybody else, no. So
I think that we were put on to Ermac's game his freshman year because he broke out with 8 touchdowns his freshman year as just like coming out of nowhere at Arizona. He had a 300-yard game this year. He matched up well with Travis Hunter, who we talked about as a better corner than he is a wide receiver. He played very well against Travis Hunter in college. The biggest knock that I'm seeing right now is that, his route tree is not very good. Because he is slow. And
not everybody in the NFL at wide receiver that are good wide receivers are fast. Devontae Adams is not fast.
I will say that Puka Nacua he didn't run a very good 40 time either. Same thing with running backs too. Bucky Irving ran 4.55, and he was the undisputed running back 1 in the class last year, and he stole the job from Rachaad White. Anyway, I don't want to turn this into a Bucky Irving thing. Love the Duck though. I do think that he hurt his draft stock, going back to Ermac, by not running the 40 at the combine, because that was the biggest question mark, right? Was, what is this guy's straight line speed? What are we getting here? And he didn't run. He didn't do any of the on-field stuff.
He should have done the on-field stuff.
I think that he would have benefited. Some players ran but didn't test. Some players test being on the field but didn't run. Ermac didn't do either. The same thing could have been said with Cam Scatterbo as well. He tested in terms of broad jump and
jumped out the fucking gym.
He jumped out of the fucking gym. But we all know the reason why he didn't run. Same thing with Ashton Jeanty. The reason these guys didn't run is because they are slower than the other guys in the class, and they would have been called out for it.
Can we just, if I was at the combine, which, pipe dream away, maybe one day, right, guys? If I was at the combine, I would do every event I'm required to do. You know why? Because I'm not gonna hide who I am. What you see is what you're going to get. And if I had an interview with teams, like you know how they do like the interviews and stuff, they're like, well, why did you do this one? You know, you're not. And I'm like, I want every NFL team to know exactly what they're getting. I'm not gonna hide anything from you. If I wasn't fast, I'm not fast. I'm gonna do this,
Right.
this, or this. And everything's become draft stock. But at that point, I mean, I guess I'm never gonna be a first round whatever, so I'm not over here trying to get this high for money purposes or whatever. I'm just going to show you who I am, as I'm going to do every drill. I'm going to do every, thing that's required of me to do. And, from there, you can determine if I'm going to be someone worthy for you or not. Like that's how, like, if a team, the way I see it is if I do all the testing, a team that wants me will draft me. If they don't want me, they will not draft me. That's how I look at it.
I agree with almost all of your points.
Mhm.
My big point to kind of piggyback off of that, and then we'll wrap up here. There needs to be a level of like being a competitor, right?
Yeah.
Like we're trying to play in the National fucking Football League,
And you're over here just not doing it.
and you're over here not competing with your peers when they're out there competing.
Can I?
This
Can
year
we
there was
stop inviting guys to the combine if they're not going to do it? Can we? I know what you're saying. I know because of the interviews, and it's like all the big name bases, but we're wasting fucking time here if we're just saying, yeah, you're gonna come to the combine, you're gonna work out unless you got hurt, which don't do. Oh, I have leg soreness. Don't do that.
There's a very simple way to fix this, because this year was arguably the most high profile players opting out of the combine that I've ever seen. The easiest way to fix this is if you are not running, if you're not testing at the combine, you are ineligible for interviews. You cannot interview with any team at the combine.
Imagine.
And that will tell you all you need to know about a player is that they don't value the interviews if they don't want to do the on-field stuff. And if you don't want to do the interviews with these teams, that should tell you everything you need to know about a player. You should want to go talk to every single NFL team that's interested in you, and maybe some that aren't even interested in you. And the prerequisite before that is to go out there and test. And now I'm not saying you need to do like, you don't need to like make it known, make this big thing like, well, I'm going out there and this person's not. No, you ain't got to do all that. But you should be willing to go out there and compete, and that earns you the right to talk to these NFL teams. Now, I know the workaround that is, well, these NFL teams are going to go to your pro day. You're going to have conversations at the pro day. The interview with the combine, very, very important, because you only get like 15 minutes of the combine, 15, 20 minutes at most, if I remember correctly. The pro day, you can sit with I think you can sit there longer with an NFL team, but that would tell me everything I need to know about a player. Let's say, for example, we've got Matthew Golden, right? Okay, that's a bad example because he did test. Let's do a guy like Cam Scatabo, right? Yep. Didn't do the on-field workouts. Then he would not be eligible for the interviews. That would tell me everything I need to know about the player, because you should want to prioritize talking with those NFL teams. And if you're too afraid of the competition, I don't know that I want you anyway.
Exactly.
Like, it should be embarrassing to not want to work out with your peers and compete.
And it's annoying too. And it's just like, man, like you're really looking forward to, like, as a fan or as a scout or whatever, and you're looking forward to watching this player at the combine, and then last minute they're like, no.
That's a great point, because the combine in popularity is going up every single year. Like, they had a couple of thousand people in the lower bowl at Indianapolis this year to watch the quarterback, running back, wide receiver groups. This is turning into, like, obviously it's, scouting first, right? But this is turning into a fanfare kind of thing too. So what kind of product are you putting out there to the fans to get them more engaged in stuff like this? If you're telling these guys, oh, you don't need to, don't worry about working out, it's not a big deal, you're just here for the interviews, whatever, no big deal. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, like, if anything, do let's do the workouts first, and then do the interviews after.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That should be the prerequisite to earning an interview with these teams. You have to work out first. No questions asked. I don't know.
Bing bang bong.
We just work here. Alrighty, guys. That's our list. Chickster has his 10.
Go through your top 10 real quick because we did yap a lot. Go through the top 10. I'll go through it and then we'll get out of here.
10 is Jack Beck out of TCU. 9 is Jaden Higgins out of Iowa.
1 to 10.
1 is Airmac out of Arizona.
10 to 1. All right, my bad. 1 to 10. 1 to 10. 1 to 10. My bad.
My 10 is Jack Beck out of TCU. My number 9 is Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. My number 8 is Tez Johnson out of Oregon. My number 7 is Matthew Golden out of Texas. Number 6 is Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. Number 5 is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. 4 is Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. 3 is Luther Burden out of Missouri. 2 is Emeka Ibuka out of Ohio State. Number 1 is Airmac out of Arizona.
It's kind of good that you didn't do 1 to 10 because I was going to say good boy afterwards, but then I'm like, okay.
I probably would have removed you from the call, to be honest. I probably would have removed you from the call because you're already getting on my nerves a little bit. And if you would have done some shit like that, I probably would have removed you.
No way. All right.
What do you want to test it? Do you want to make another colorblind joke? Go ahead. Go ahead and make one. We'll see what goes on here.
Brother man, I'm just trying to do my rankings. Number 1, Airmac. Number 2, this is where I had Travis Hunter. Number 3, Emeka Ibuka. Number 4, Luther Burden. Number 5, Trey Harris. Number 6, the X-Man, Xavier Restrepo. Wow. I did not say that right. Number 7, Jaden Higgins. Number 8, Dante Thornton. Number 9, Ricky White, Slick Rick. And number 10 is where I had Ted Johnson. And I did not have, for anyone that just skipped to the end, I did not have Matthew Golden in my top 10. Because fuck that guy. Stick it to the man. Fuck your reactionary bullshit. Garrett, to you.
And in typical Chickster fashion, didn't list the colleges for any player whatsoever. But we wouldn't want anything to change. For Chickster, I'm Garrett Burrows. We're the Draft Busters. If you agree, disagree with our list, put it down in the comments below. Feel free to drop down your favorite wide receivers in this class. Drop down your 10. We'll react to them. Like I said at the top of the video, we're going to be recording a bunch this week. We're going to be going live this week to try to play a little catch-up, post-NFL Combine. Be sure to ring the bell so you don't miss any of the live streams or the uploads that we're going to be going through for the rest of the week leading up to the NFL Draft. If you haven't subscribed already, press the subscribe button. We're going to see you next time. Now, here's the part of the stream where it just kind of